Good morning. It's good
Hi.
to be with you today. We're back home in Blackmans Bay. We've moved from where we've been the last 2 weeks, stuck in the one house, and it's great to be out and about again.
Yeah, even though we've got to do all the distancing regulations and all the rest of it, it's a bit of a change. But transitions are never easy, and I'm sure for you, the transition into being in your home, whether it's with your partner, whether it's homeschooling with kids, whether it's actually by yourself and it feels a bit like solitary confinement, we're all facing some challenges in this quite unique time that we're living in at the moment. And today's verse, I think, might be helpful for us to think a little bit about that.
Yeah, especially as we enter this Easter week. It's taken from the YouVersion app verse of the day, Philippians 2 verse 7, where it says, "Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness."
This is a profound verse in a profound passage where it talks about how God became a human being. And Paul is using it to help the Philippians, the church at Philippi, work out how to live with each other well, which seems to be pretty appropriate for us today. And this actual verse, particularly the bit, "he made himself nothing," has been the focus of many PhDs and many books as people try to work out what does it mean for God to be made nothing. In some ways, the rest of the verse explains it a bit. God became a servant. God became a human being. Very profound.
Yeah, and so I guess it speaks to us not just of Jesus' sacrifice in coming to earth and going through what we remember this week as we lead up to Easter, but how we also can be servants to one another in sacrifice.
Yeah. And it starts with this profound thought that so often, even in the Bible and the way we understand things, is that we believe that the responsibility of human beings is to serve God. And yet when Jesus comes amongst us, he says, actually, there's something more profound than that, is that God wants to serve you. And I don't think we fully realise that or grapple with that. And yes, it's true, it's right for us to serve God, but God wants to serve us. We've got this mutual relationship. God wants to be in this profound relationship with us. And that's something of what this verse explains for us. You know, so often in the Bible, God is revealed as a mighty warrior or a lawgiver
or a king,
or a great creator, all powerful metaphors. And yet here, when God comes and Jesus is the fullness of the expression of God, this is the best way, this is the fullest way that we understand who God is. Paul says God comes as a servant. That is incredibly profound.
And really, that's what we've just celebrated on Palm Sunday, isn't it? When they were expecting a mighty warrior to come through the gates with a big white horse and all these troops behind him. But no, he comes on a donkey and it's very peaceable, and they still celebrated.
Yep, and that's right, because he was and is the king. That's true. So it wasn't wrong, it just wasn't complete. And Jesus, in the week coming now, turns all those expectations on their head and says, actually, if you really want to understand God, you've got to understand God through the context of Easter, of death, and ultimately resurrection. Very profound.
Yeah, and thank goodness for resurrection, because that's what gives us hope. Even now, going through this tricky time, we know that there will be something better at the end, and that's what we're hoping for, isn't it? That we know, we can be confident of that. It will get better. There will be a time when it will change again.
Yeah. So what it means is that we're at home with our kids or with our partner, and maybe even by ourselves. We'll get to that in a minute. But it says, how do we learn to live with each other in this unique, profound moment when we get on each other's nerves? Not that we ever do that.
We never get on each other's nerves.
And those moments where it's frustrating and stressful, where do we go? Where do we draw hope? Where do we draw sustenance? Where do we draw a way ahead that gives us a chance that our families can hold together? And here, Paul is saying, look to Jesus, find it from him. And even if you're single, yes, you might be frustrated with yourself, but what does it mean to reach out and serve someone else by giving them a phone call and being connected? In this verse, I think it gives us something about it. Jesus is central to it all, and he becomes the model of how we can live, even in these profound and difficult times.
Yeah, by becoming a servant.
Yeah.
But, yeah. and serving other people.
Have a go today.
Yep.
Trust it works for you.
Yep.
I'm sure it will.
Yep. See you later.
Bye.